Sam from West Meadow Rabbits here, and today I am breaking with tradition a little bit and going over automatic rabbit watering systems. Now, if you've watched my videos in the past, you know this is something I haven't really bothered with for a couple reasons. I had a pretty good solution for each cage with converted 2-liter water bottles, and I'm out here every day anyway, so it was no extra trouble to water them. There's a couple things about automatic watering systems that I wasn't hot on, and I would still say these are still some drawbacks. The biggest one being you can't do individualized water treatments. So say you wanted to do apple cider vinegar for a doe that's not breeding well, or you had to medicate something. That's really not an option with automatic watering systems. So basically what that means is that instead of every cage having its own water supply, they're all going to share this 5-gallon water supply here. Well, not all of them obviously, but a certain run of cages will share a water supply, so you can't do individualized stuff, which is kind of a pain. The other big pain is obviously in New England where I am, it still freezes in the winter and spring and fall, so they're not usable then unless you wanted to get some kind of heated recirculating system, which would make sense for a larger operation, but for me it never did. That being said, if you were a larger commercial operation or you're in an area that doesn't freeze or freezes very rarely, I think this actually makes sense. I've already put one in on my duplex hutch over there, my kind of old school one, just to test it out. And so far I've been actually pretty happy with the results. So if I was in a warmer area, I would definitely recommend this. I'm gonna do it anyways where I am, just because it seems like it's worth it enough. The trade-offs are acceptable to me. If I was further north, maybe not so much, but where I am, and seeing as the cold season, the time when it has a frost, has been decreasing pretty steadily every year, I think it's a reasonable investment. Now what I have here is a kind of middle of the road automatic watering kit. It's gravity fed, and it's not the smallest you could go, and it's definitely not the largest. If you were running a real professional operation, you could hook up a pressurized system to a live water supply, like a hose or a something plumbed in, and that would give you pressurized water, and you could add a recirculating pump in there or heating elements to keep it from freezing. And if I had more than 50 holes, I would probably do that. If you're not familiar with the term, holes is like cage doors, so we don't count by rabbits usually, because that changes obviously. We count by how many cages we have. So when somebody says they have so-and-so holes, they're talking about how many cages, individual cages they have. So if you have more than 50 holes, I would probably go with a professional system. If you have less than 5, is this worth it? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Depends on how much you want to be out there. Like I said, for what I do, I got to be out there to feed them every day, and the amount of time it takes to top off 2-liter bottles for 5 holes is negligible, and it gives me that flexibility. So I don't really think I would do that in that situation. But with where I'm at right now, I've probably got, I don't know, 3, 9. I'm approaching the 25 mark, give or take, and that's right about the size where I think this kind of system makes sense. So to go over what I have here, it's one of those kits you buy online. I got this one from All Things Bunny. The name of the actual kit is Avidity Science, and obviously these kind of applications are usually used in lab situations, which is where you get the small animal kind of specific equipment from. And it's not a bad kit. So there's a couple different versions, and I'll tell you which one I would recommend and which one I wouldn't recommend. Don't buy the one with the bucket. The bucket adds like $30 to the price. You can get these at Home Depot for a few bucks. Everything else in this kit you really can't get from a hardware store because it's small animal specific, with the exception of the tubing, but that's pretty cheap, so I mean, why even bother? So essentially the kit, like I said, the one I originally bought came with a bucket, but I bought these buckets from Home Depot because it's easy enough to drill your own hole. You've got tubing here specifically for water supply. It's not, basically you would look for food grade or, something like that. I mean, I suppose you'd be fine without it, but play it safe, why not? And then the more specific parts here is we've got 2 different types of mounting brackets. Now this one right here clips into the wire like so, which we'll see in the video on how to actually put it in, and that keeps it away from the, keeps the tube away from the cage so your rabbits can't chew it. That's how you run it along. If you were going along wood or something like that, you could probably buy little tubing clips at the hardware store. This mounting bracket goes right in between the wire again, and this is for the actual nozzle itself. This will hold it in place so the rabbits can drink out of it. Here is the nozzle. It's very simple. If you've got a water bottle system, chances are you've probably already seen this. It's essentially a little valve in here, and when the rabbit mouths this little silver piece, the valve opens up and allows water to come out, the rabbit to drink. This end literally just shoves into the hose. All of these systems are basically shove into the hose. And then here is your standard T splitter right here, so it can connect to hose on this end, and then the down part can come to the rabbit's cage so it can drink. And the final part, and probably the most important, is the actual valve that connects to the tank. It's got a simple on and off switch. It's got a plastic washer and some rubber gasket, plastic nut and rubber washers. Based on my experience with the first one, I'm not super hot on these rubber washers, so I have a little bit of silicone here that you would use for like a shower that I'm going to seal around the edge with after I drill the hole. But anyways, this end goes inside, rubber washer on either side, on and off, and then this shoves the hose. Very simple system. So far so good for me. I've noticed that I probably wouldn't put, sorry, that's my dog. Now, I probably wouldn't put more than 4 cages to a 5-gallon bucket. Otherwise, you're going to be filling it up so often it's hardly worth it. So you do have to kind of plan that accordingly. Theoretically, you could put an indefinite amount on these. They call this the expansion kit. This one comes with 6 nozzles, which is really the max I think anybody would want to put on a 5-gallon bucket. The reason I'm probably going to stick with 4 or 5 is because most of my cages have multiple rabbits in them because this is a breeding operation. So you've got does with litters or weaned litters in cages. So that's going to be a lot more than just one rabbit. If you were literally doing just single rabbit, single cage, and you had you know, some stock you were growing out for shows or something like that, then yeah, you could probably get away with 6 or even 8s on a 5-gallon bucket with a reasonable refill time depending on your climate. But that's what I would do. So basically, in conclusion, there are a few drawbacks with these systems, but they seem to make sense, especially if you're in a warmer area and you have more than 5 holes. I've been pretty happy with this. Don't buy your own, don't buy the bucket with the kits. Buy your own, drill the hole. Everything else though, the kit's reasonably priced. I think it was like 50 bucks without the bucket, which really isn't that bad. And it has saved me some time. So I think I'm going to be going ahead and putting these in the rest of the cages now, which I will take a video of and you will see. I'm going to cut it off here though because I don't want this to get too long. But yeah, I'm definitely going to put them in so we can follow along and see how that goes. So I'm going to leave that here today. I'll record the install video also today so you can go ahead and watch that next. Otherwise, guys, if you have any questions, please leave a comment and be sure to like, share, and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks.